Hi, I'm Susie Morgan, founder and director of training at Precision EMDR Academy. And I'm not sure who needs to hear what from this talk, because I'm going to talk about the whole spectrum of what I see with EMDR therapists, from overconfidence, where there's just nothing more that I need to learn, all the way through imposter syndrome and the ways at various stages in development as an EMDR therapist that shows up. So what I invite you to do is just listen, because along the way, I'm going to talk about complexities on each end of that spectrum. And I'm curious where you land. I'm curious where you will find some resonance and what that might mean, ways in which this might encourage you and help you kind of find your bearings, where you can get more support and feel more confident, or where it can challenge you to dig in a bit more, to expand your knowledge a little bit more, and to keep being a perpetual learner, because that's really critical, I believe, to safety and efficacy with our clients. I really think our clients deserve that. So come with me for the ride and really listen for yourself in this and see what resonates, and tell me in the comments, or shoot me an email, or send me a text on Instagram or wherever, because I really want to hear where you feel like you're at, and also find out if there's ways that we at Precision EMDR could support you in that, or ways in which we could direct you into the wild of EMDR therapy world, for ways that could be more supportive as well. Because I'm a really big believer in not gurus, very much a believer in there's so many incredible minds and so many incredible ways to learn. So it's all about shaping the journey that is best for you and your client's care. So anyways, let's get started. So let's talk about where overconfidence can come from. There is a real disservice, I think, in our field in the way sometimes that basic trainings are advertised, is like, you have arrived. Once you have completed basic training, you are now an EMDR therapist. And yes, you are an EMDR therapist. At that point, you are ethically equipped to start practicing EMDR therapy with your clients. However, there is so much complexity. There is so much to learn. And what we can teach in, bottom line is a 50-hour training is nothing compared to everything that you really, really do need to learn to be able to really effectively treat the complexity that we have out there. And so I think it's really something that should shift in our culture, where we're really understanding that EMDR basic training is EMDR 101. You wouldn't stop at Psych 101 and be like, now I can open my therapy practice. That's the same thing with EMDR 101, but it is where you have to start. And in addition to that, starting with a legitimate course is actually pretty critical as well. So one of the other pieces of disservice I think is out there are trainings that are not approved by the EMDR International Association, EMDRIA, saying you can be EMDR certified through us. You can do EMDR after you complete this program. But it's not meeting the general standards that are accepted by the EMDR field, established essentially through the years of starting with Francine Shapiro's original training program, expanding that out, looking at the research over time and saying, this is what are the very, very basic components that an EMDR training should have. They are things that should really, really involve a foundational basis in where we have solid research. It should involve practice during the course, a practicum portion, as well as implementation with consultation, so that as you begin to take these skills to your clients, you have very much an active hands-on place where you can bring that back to consultation, ask questions, get clarifications, talk about the personalized application of these skills to your clients. And so these courses that sort of cut corners by not having the practicum component, by not having as many hours required, by not having as much consultation required, that sort of thing, they really leave you having less than as a therapist, they don't give you as much of that robust training. There's also training programs out there where they are great programs, and in fact, at one point probably were approved by EMDRIA. There's some big names out there where this is the case, but what they've done is they've taken their own protocols and they've made that what is the standard thing that is taught during the training. The problem is then you only learn their model that probably does not have the robust research backing that the EMDR International Association approved programs do. In addition, it keeps you in their funnel, essentially. You are not qualified then to go on and take all of the range of advanced trainings that are out there in EMDR because you trained at a non-approved training program. And so I think that it can be great to train with those people after you've done a basic training that's EMDRIA approved. But to start there really puts you, kind of locks you into a smaller community, more of a guru focused learning that is, I think, a disservice, because I think we get our best training by learning from people all over the map in terms of perspective, populations, various integrations, things like that. So bottom line, if you end up doing a basic training, it's just the beginning. But if you do a basic training that isn't EMDRIA approved, then what you end up with is something that is subpar. You end up with something that is limiting. And it is really interesting right now because in our cohort right now, we actually have quite a few people who have gone through other training programs and then have joined ours because in looking at what we offer, they said, okay, like this is EMDRIA approved, covers complex trauma, applications with attachment, strategic target sequence planning, strategic readiness assessment, all of that, things that were missing where they had trained previously in these sort of lesser qualified programs, essentially. And so it's really critical, I think, to as a new EMDR practitioner to, number one, make sure that training is from an EMDRIA approved basic training. And then on top of that, really, if you have done one of those other programs, think about like, how can I kind of redo this process and invest in something that provides that foundation that I need. But again, that's just the foundation. It's just the start. It's EMDR 101. And if you think about, I take EMDR 101 and then I should be ready and able to treat everything, it's just not the case. It's not your fault that you have that sort of sense of, well, I did EMDR, I should be able to do the thing. And you have that overconfidence in what you got. That's not your fault. It's just the fault of the way that we frame it, that this is all you need in order to do EMDR. And it's not all you need. And then beyond that, what we have on the other spectrum is people who are overconfident in the idea of, I have done all my training through this one guru. Maybe it is EMDRIA approved, all that's okay. But I have done, everything through this one trainer, through this one program. And therefore, that's, they're the ones, they have the corner on everything. So there's really nothing more I can learn. And with that, I actually think it's a great way to start with one single program, with one sort of methodology that a program and where they're coming from. It's something we offer. We offer really, a graduated training program, from basic training, holding your hand through certification, having advanced courses that really build specifically on what you learn in basic training, using the same formulations, the same methodologies, the same paperwork, all of that, but then deepening into complex trauma, deepening into attachment, deepening into the complexities of what you need to know there. And we really encourage people, yes, do all of that. Do certification with us. Do our advanced certification in complex developmental trauma. Really, really learn all of that. But also, here's all the other people you should be learning from too. You should be going and studying from this person and that person and that person. And if you have this specialty area, go here, go there. It is really critical, I think, that once you get a solid foundation, you learn from the spectrum of people. So why I believe that is because there is my own personal experience of really, starting this 20 years ago, where there weren't a lot of things developed out in terms of the advanced trainings. But so over the years, I had to seek it out. When I wanted to learn dissociation, this was before Zoom, all of that, I was like, I really, really need to learn dissociation. I don't know what I need to know. And I bought all the books, and I'm sitting with all the books and literally in tears because I couldn't wrap my head around all the different things that I was reading, and learned out later it's because they were from different theories. And so that was why they were all so contradictory. Plus they used a lot of big words that were not very helpful, but it's a side point. So I ended up hiring a consultant, and that consultant then offered trainings, and I went to those trainings, and then I looked for other trainings. And so for a while, probably a year and a half, I traveled to a training around the country once a month until I was able to develop out enough of a robust model that said, like, okay, I think I get this. And then I hired another consultant, an international expert, Dolores Mascara, in dissociation, and really helped hone in my knowledge in this. And this is way after being a consultant and all of that. So I'd already checked the boxes per se, but I was like, there is more I need to learn. And so I need to keep searching and keep looking. And so I think a really big piece with that overconfidence aspect is understanding that once you have hit certification, once you've hit consultation, you haven't just arrived. Now you know it all. No, there are endless ways in which you can and should deepen your expertise. And so it's really critical to learn your foundations, but then move beyond whoever you originally trained with and reach out to additional resources. There's a period of time even where we were able to buy the full EMDR conference recordings each year. And so every year I bought them. And when I was hiking with my dog, when I was swimming laps, I had a little waterproof iPod thingy, and would listen while I swam laps to all of the trainings, all of the things. And honestly, one of the biggest frustrations I have with now having put a lot of energy into creating my own training programs is that over these last couple of years, I haven't had as much time to go to all the trainings that are out there, because I really, really think that there's these voices right now where I was like, oh, I need to catch up on what they're saying. I need to learn from what they're saying. Really important. So that speaks to kind of the last piece that I wanted to speak about with overconfidence is, number one, just to summarize so far, we have people coming out of basic training thinking, well, I should know now. I should know these things because I arrived. I completed basic training. I'm an EMDR therapist. And it's like, yes, and you are an EMDR therapist, but there's so much more to learn. Or I've hit a benchmark of certification, or I'm a consultant now. So that's it. There's nothing more I need to learn now because I've arrived. Nope. I've learned everything from this guru. Nope. That's not enough either. There is never an end to what you can and should learn with EMDR therapy. And one of the most disappointing things that I have heard as I've been actually putting together a training team is every once in a while, I encounter someone who looks at our requirements to be a part of our team. And our requirements are that you complete our advanced certification in complex developmental trauma. And it's interesting because the response that I've heard is, I don't think there's anything I could learn from that. And I immediately am like, then I don't think you're going to be a good fit for our team. And at that point, they're deciding they're not going to be a good fit for our team. So it's very mutual. But it's interesting because anyone who has the attitude that says, I've arrived, and they're in EMDR especially, says, I've arrived, there's nothing more I could really learn here. They are at a point where I think it's kind of scary, honestly. I think it's kind of scary because there is always something more we can learn. And I have had people who have joined our team who've been consultants for a decade, and they've still said, dang, like I learned a lot from this, because we do teach a very specific methodology that really actually synthesizes a lot of the experts in the field. And so a lot of times people have trained under a lot of different people, but it hasn't been synthesized into a methodology where we are putting that all together into something that's very strategic about readiness, target sequence planning, addressing complex trauma and attachment, and all of the strategies, the adaptations and blocking beliefs and all of that that can come along with it, and all the attachment repair that's needed. But anyways, so scariest thing I think is someone who says, I know it all. That is number one. If that is something that you're thinking, I want you to really take some time to think about it. Do you really know it all? Because at this point, I'm 20 years into this. And when I go to a training, I don't expect to learn all the things. Like, a lot of it's review now, but there's always something I can take away from it. There's always a tip. There's always a trick. There's always a perspective that's a little bit different that makes it worth my time. And if nothing else, I know what the thought processes are that are out there in the EMDR world. It's helpful for me to know how people are conceptualizing these things, how other people are teaching things, because then I can say, okay, I could learn from that. Or I actually like how I'm teaching it as it is in comparison to that. So there's always something. So in the spectrum of I know all the things, whether it's from I'm new, I completed EMDR training, or I hit a milestone, or I am now, very much a seasoned professional, I think it's very, very important to be cautious about overconfidence. It's important to know where you are at, what you have achieved, and where else there is to grow. So that then leads me to go to the flip side, which is the imposter syndrome stuff that comes out of each element of this, where people who are new feeling like I can't get started because I'm just new. I shouldn't get started because I'm still reading the script and I don't know the script back and forwards. It's still awkward. It's like, yes, it should be awkward for a while. It's going to take a bit. You just keep stepping forward. In addition, the same thing with imposter syndrome as you get into complexity and all of that. It's really, really important to acknowledge what you do know and then dig into what you don't know and let that bring you confidence. Because as you take what you do know and you just practice, you're going to notice where you have blocks. And that's exactly why we have support. That's exactly why there is consultation. There's additional training. All of that is because when it starts to feel rocky, when it starts to feel difficult, that's when you want to lean into the help that's there. It's not because you should know all of these things already. It's just because there is an enormous learning curve. It's really, really important that even though it feels new and even though it feels rough, to keep going. And in doing so, you'll find your footing. You'll find your way. But it's really critical in that not to just hide in insecurity and not ask the questions. Because one of the most dangerous things that can happen with imposter syndrome is a sense of like, my questions are dumb. I shouldn't have these questions. I should know this by now. Like, look at all these other people. It seems so easy for them, that sort of thing. And instead, that's where that bravery comes in, is that vulnerability. It's finding someone you can learn from, finding someone where you do feel safe to ask questions of. So when, going back to that idea of learning about dissociation, I realized I needed to learn this more once I was already a consultant. And so there was a lot of embarrassment in that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already a consultant. I should know this. How on earth do I like out myself to the world that like, I don't know this at this point? And so I had found an article by a specific practitioner, and she spoke in language that I could understand and that felt accessible to me. And so that made me feel brave enough to reach out to that person and to say, can I hire you for consultation on this? Can I bring you my questions? And so I did. And so like I laid them all out for her, and she's like, oh, this makes sense why you're so confused, because there's like 3 different theories going on here, and they're all saying competing things because they literally are coming from 3 different theories, and helped me really like tease that out, spell it out. And then I was able to say like, oh, okay, now I understand. And now I understand which one I'm resonating with more and where I want to really deepen in terms of my learning in that process. But I had to find a safe place to not have to like put on a show of like like that I had it all together, I guess. Not even overconfidence, but like basic confidence. I got to be safe enough to just be like, I don't know, and I'm scared, and this is freaking me out. And by having that, then I was able to learn. And then I was able to really, really wrap my head around what I needed to learn. And that was what was better for me and for my clients. So I think when you're dealing with this imposter syndrome, it's finding a safe place to learn, finding the right mentor for you. That's a big, big piece in our model at Precision, is like, are you mentored versus are you just checking boxes? And so when we're looking for team members, it's like, do you really, really invest? Like as a consultant, are you really invested in the clinician's learning? Or is this just, a notch on your belt that you're a consultant? Because that's not what this is about. This is about helping really, really come around those who are learning and growing as EMDR therapists, so that they can feel safe enough to ask questions, and so that then their learning goes that much deeper and they're that much more effective. So that's kind of that middle ground of imposter syndrome. So like, okay, number 1, when you're getting started, you've got to just start. You've got to just do it janky, and you'll get better. You'll get a groove with it. But then you've got to keep asking questions. You've got to stay in consultation. You've got to invest in that process and do it soon. Like, don't just wait for years after basic. Get those questions answered early so you don't build bad habits. Or if it has been a while, like, then jump in there anyways and undo those habits. Like, it's okay. Just make sure you find a safe place to do it. And then in terms of like later on in life, one of the things that I think is the most fun in being a training director at Precision is seeing, these people who come and they're part of the team and they have imposter syndrome. They're like, yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. Yeah, I've been doing it for 7 years. I've been doing it for 5 years. I've been a therapist for X number of years, all of that. But they're still like, I'm not good enough. And then I'm listening to that and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much wisdom here. And I get to read their resumes and I'm like, oh my goodness, they are so impressive. Everything that they've studied, everything that they're integrating into their practice. And so some of the most fun I have as their mentor essentially is being able to say, no, what you have accomplished in learning all of this, it's significant and it deserves to be shared. And it's important that your perspective is out there and that people are able to learn from you now. But I will tell you that those who I want on my team are usually the ones who start with the most imposter syndrome, because those are the ones who have those eons of trainings. And I don't think eons is the right word there, but they have just like epic amounts of trainings because they're like, no, I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I need to do this better. I need to do this better. There is something about perfectionism that is one of those strategies that does have positive side effects. It also has some negative ones, but positive side effects is you keep going, you keep trying, you keep learning. And then at some point you realize, oh my gosh, I've arrived at some point of knowing something. And so I think having that imposter syndrome is not all of a bad thing, but I think that there's an evolution there to a point where it's continuing to have that humility to say, of course I can keep learning, but also it's okay for me to speak now. And there's something important for me to teach as well, or for me to offer to those who are growing in this field. So anyways, I'm curious in this whole sort of spectrum that I've covered today, where do you land? And so I encourage you to reflect on it. And like I said, send me a message. Tell me where you're at. I'm curious. And then also, how could we best support you as an EMDR therapist in that journey? Or if you haven't trained in EMDR yet, how can we support you in getting trained so that you can begin developing this expertise and offer this really tremendous treatment to your clients? So leave a message here. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram at Precision EMDR, or shoot me an email at Susie at precisionemdr.com. And I would love to hear from you and be in touch.